My name is Jolly. The morning sun spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my downtown office, casting long shadows across the polished mahogany desk where I'd built my empire. At 42, I turned a small tech startup into a multi-million-dollar software company, and life seemed perfect on paper. My wife, Vanessa, was my college sweetheart, the woman who'd stood by me through sleepless nights and ramen dinners when the business was just a dream. We had a sprawling house in the suburbs, a sleek Mercedes in the garage, and a marriage that, to the outside world, was the envy of our friends. But lately something felt off, like a faint hum in the background you can't quite place. Vanessa had been distant, her smiles forced, her eyes darting away when I asked about her day. She'd started working late at her marketing firm, or so she said, and her excuses were polished almost too perfect. Client dinners, she'd say, or a big pitch that's keeping me late. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was my partner in every sense, until the day I found the first crack in her story. It started with a text. I was in a board meeting pitching a new AI-driven app to investors when my phone buzzed. I glanced down expecting a reminder or a client email, but it was a message from an unknown number. Check your wife's calendar. She's not where she says she is. My stomach twisted, but I brushed it off as a prank. Still, the words lingered, gnawing at me like a splinter. That night, over dinner, I casually asked Vanessa about her day. "Oh, the usual chaos," she said, twirling her wine glass. "Had to meet with the Henderson account team. They're driving me up the wall." Her laugh was light, but her eyes didn't meet mine. I nodded, forcing a smile, but the text replayed in my mind. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I did something I'd never done before. I checked her phone. It was locked, of course, but her calendar was synced to our shared cloud account. I opened it on my laptop, my heart pounding like I was committing a crime. There it was. Henderson meeting, 7 p.m., downtown office. But there was another entry hidden under a private setting. Drinks with them, 8 p.m., the Ivory Lounge. My blood ran cold. The Ivory Lounge wasn't a place for client meetings. It was a swanky bar known for its discretion, the kind of place you went to not be seen. I didn't confront her. Something told me to stay quiet, to dig deeper. I spent the next week watching her patterns. Vanessa was meticulous, always had been, but she'd gotten sloppy. She'd leave her work bag open, her laptop unlocked, and I started piecing things together. Receipts for lunches at restaurants she'd never mentioned, a new perfume I didn't recognize, and cryptic texts from a contact saved as M that she deleted daily. I installed a tracking app on our shared cloud, one that mirrored her phone's location without her knowing. The first night I tested it, she said she was at a client dinner across town. The app showed her phone at the Ivory Lounge miles away. I drove there, heart hammering, and parked across the street. Through the tinted windows, I saw her, laughing, leaning close to a man in a tailored suit, his hand brushing hers. I didn't storm in. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I took a photo, time-stamped, and drove home. That was the moment I knew. My wife was lying, and I needed to protect everything I'd built. The next few weeks were a masterclass in restraint. I played the doting husband, asking about her day, cooking her favorite meals, all while gathering evidence like a detective in my own life. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Frank who'd seen it all. "You want the truth, Mr. Carter," he said, lighting a cigarette. "But you gotta be ready for what it costs." I nodded, handing him a retainer. Frank tailed Vanessa, delivering reports that made my stomach churn. The man was Marcus Reed, a venture capitalist with a reputation for charm and ruthlessness. They met at hotels, private clubs, even a weekend work trip to Miami that I believed was for a conference. Frank's photos were damning, Vanessa and Marcus arm in arm, her head on his shoulder, their intimacy unmistakable. But it wasn't just the affair that gutted me. Frank uncovered something worse. Vanessa had been meeting with a lawyer, one known for high-stakes divorces. She was building a case to claim half my business, arguing she'd been a silent partner in its success. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. This wasn't just about love. It was about my life's work. I threw myself into protecting what was mine. I met with my own lawyer, Emily Voss, a shark in a pencil skirt who specialized in business law. "We need to lock down your assets," she said, her eyes scanning the evidence I'd brought. "Your company's valuation is $12 million. If she's claiming half, we need to prove she had no role in its growth." I spent nights combing through old emails, contracts, anything to show Vanessa hadn't been involved. She'd never worked at the company, never coded a line or pitched an investor, but her lawyer could argue emotional support or shared finances. Emily suggested restructuring the business, moving assets to a trust, but warned it had to be done quietly to avoid tipping Vanessa off. I also met with a forensic accountant who found discrepancies in our joint accounts, small transfers to an account I didn't recognize, likely Vanessa funneling money to prepare for her exit. Each discovery was a knife twist, but it fueled me. I wasn't going to let her take what I'd bled for. At home, I kept up the act. Vanessa didn't suspect a thing, her lies growing bolder. "I'm swamped with this new campaign," she'd say, slipping out for late meetings. I'd smile, kiss her forehead, and check the tracker the moment she left. One night, I found an email she'd left open on her laptop, a draft to her lawyer outlining her contributions to my company, full of exaggerations about late-night brainstorming and client introductions that never happened. I forwarded it to Emily, my hands shaking with rage. The deeper I dug, the more I saw how calculated this was. Vanessa wasn't just cheating. She was orchestrating a heist, using our marriage as leverage to gut my business. I started sleeping in the guest room, claiming stress, but really I couldn't stand being near her. Every touch, every laugh felt like a lie. The turning point came on a rainy Thursday. Frank called me to his office, sliding a folder across the desk. "You're not gonna like this," he said. Inside were recordings, Vanessa and Marcus plotting. "Once the divorce is filed," she said in one clip, her voice cold, "I'll get half the company. We can sell it, split the profits, and start fresh." Marcus laughed, promising to connect her with buyers. I felt like I'd been punched. This wasn't just betrayal, it was war. I thanked Frank, my mind racing. I had evidence now, photos, recordings, financial trails. But I needed a plan, one that would protect my business and expose her without destroying me in the process. Emily warned that divorce courts could be unpredictable, and if Vanessa played the victim, I could lose more than I'd bargained for. I needed to outsmart her, to stay one step ahead. As I drove home that night, rain streaking the windshield, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her yet. I'd let her think she was winning, let her dig her own grave. I'd keep gathering evidence, tightening my legal defenses, and when the time was right, I'd strike. The man who trusted blindly was gone. In his place was someone colder, sharper, ready to fight for what was his. If Vanessa wanted half my business, she'd have to go through.